Hey guys, Mr. Mailhot here. Let's do some pre-calculus. We are finding inverses. Remember, inverses are like the steps that would undo or backwards of other steps. Let's start with number 3 here. So the question asks, are the given functions inverses, yes or no? There's a couple ways you could go about doing this. What I saw most of you try today was to take one of these functions, like let's take this first one, f of n equals negative 16 plus n over 4. I think we did this one in our notes. And find what is the inverse of that function. What is it? If the inverse of this happens to be 4n plus 16, it happens to be this, well, then we're good. So let's try it that way real quick. Remember, the first step is to kind of replace the f of, it's not f of x, but the f of whatever with a y. Remember, they're just variables. They don't really, they can be interchangeable. So we can do the same steps. Replace with a y, swap places. We're inverting the variables. We're switching them, inverting them. And then solve for y here. We eventually want to have y equals something. So first step, multiply by 4 on both sides. We got 4n equals negative 16 plus y. Y is almost by itself. Add 16 to both sides. And we have y equals 4n plus 16. Now let's write it with our function notation. The inverse of f of n. F inverse is 4n plus 16. Now check it out. This is the same as this. So the inverse is this. So are these inverses? Yes. Which is great. I don't know if that's always the best way to do it. It's always good to have more tools in our toolbox if possible. So here's one tool. You got one way to solve these problems. Let's try another one. Using composition. If f of g of n equals x and f, oh, nope, sorry. If f of g of n equals x and g of f of n also equals x, then they're inverses. Because remember, we have been looking on a graph. When we have inverses, they always compose to give you that y equals x line that they're rotated about. Remember, we had ones that were parabolas. We had ones that kind of looked like this. Let's find out. So let's do f of g of n. That means we're going to take g of n and plug it in to f, wherever we see that variable. So negative 16 plus n, but instead of n, we're putting all of g of n. So 4n plus 16. That's g of n divided by 4. Simplify some stuff. 16, negative 16 and 16, those cancel out. 4n over 4, that just simplifies to n. Okay, I said earlier, if they equal x, I totally misspoke. The variable we're not using isn't x, it's n. But you hopefully get the idea, right? N and x, they're both variables, it's okay. So this one, simplified to n. It's not enough to just check one of them. You have to check both ways. We just checked f of g of n. We have to compose the other way and see if we also get the same thing. G of f of n. If this also equals n, then we'll be good. If this equals n, then it is truly the inverse. Right now we've just checked one way. Let's check the other way. This means let's plug all of f into n. So, 4 times negative 16 plus n over 4 plus 16. Wow. Okay, what are we going to do? Well, this is multiplication, but we're multiplying 4 times something that is being divided by 4. I'm going to say that again. We're multiplying 4 times something that is being divided by 4. Those are inverse operations. They cancel each other out, and we're left with negative 16 plus n plus 16. And hey, negative 16 and positive 16 are also inverses. They're gone, and you're left with just n. So yes, they are inverses. They both simplified to n. They are inverses. Let's try another one. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Mr. Mayor.
What's up?
The drop for you.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I appreciate this.
Have a good day.
You too. Someone brought me a drop from my bucket. I appreciate that. Let's get going. Let's find the inverse of one of these. Let's look one that looks kind of hard. How about number 10? Ooh. Okay. Hey, Jan. So remember, you replace the g of x with y and swap places. You know what? I think we're good enough to do that all at once. Swap and switch at the same time. Right? We replaced the g of x with y, and we switched places. Okay, now we got to make it y equals. So let's start getting it by itself. Add 2 to both sides. Y is on the bottom. Well, how do you get it out from the bottom? Well, multiply by y on both sides. And we've got 1 left on the right-hand side. And y times x plus 2. Don't distribute yet. You might try to, but don't do that yet. Do not do that. Because we want to get y by itself. And I think we can if we divide by x plus 2 on both sides. Those factors cancel out. You got y equals 1 over x plus 2. We're almost done. Let's write this with function notation. The inverse of g, careful, we use g, not f. G inverse is 1 over x plus 2. Now, we could check by doing composition, but I see some steps right here. If these steps are correct, you're good to go. All right, guys. Come to class with questions next time. Remember, we're mathematicians. We can do anything we want. See you later.